Okay, now let's switch gears here and let's look at a vertical navigation bar. So let's see how a vertical navigation bar might be a little bit different than a horizontal. So, sometimes you want that to occur on your page. And it's a really easy setup compared to what we've seen with the horizontal navigation bar video. So the first thing you'll notice here is that my page layout is a little slightly different than the horizontal. I have two sections here. One's the nav, one's the main content area, and they are side by side in that main area. So you'll see instead of having the nav section go all the way across, I have it over here on the left hand side and it's a certain width. And most likely with a layout, you're applying a float, so they float side by side on that part. So you have to have an area on the left hand side for your navigation bar. Now, let's take a look at the code. Right now, of course, you have your header section up here at the top. I have a main section within a div, and inside that div, I have a nav section. And then, of course, I have a div. You can also use the article tag for this instead of the div ID column 2. You could set article ID equals column 2 as well for that. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm grouping it together, and when I look at the nav section, I have it side by side with that. So if I take a look at the style sheet, you can see there's the float left. So that makes it side by side. Also, you can see that the width is set to 180 and the height set to 400. And then there's some other additional things here to help with the spacing, so that way the text and that area are fitting exactly in the area that I want on that part. So the float by float, I'm sorry, the float left, it will get it side by side. And of course, then that's where you have to know your widths for your columns and that. So let's just move on to the next part. Now we have to add our list. So you'll notice that there is no list here. So just like we did with our horizontal, we have to add one. Okay, if we take a look, it doesn't look any different than what we did with the horizontal navigation bar. It's identical, and it's added in the nav section. So again, nothing majorly wrong in this part. Now I do want to remove the bullets, and I want to remove this inherent space and it's added to the list item. So as we did um, in with the horizontal, we added margin 0, padding 0, and we say list style type none. And that's going to automatically go in and remove that extra spacing and remove the bullets. So I'm going to add the margin 0, padding 0, list style type none. So when I save this, let's run this real quick. You can see now they're on top of each other. Okay, and there, again, there's no spacing added, so that has been removed, and there's no bullets on the left hand side. Now, since anchor tags are inline elements, we cannot add borders around the anchor tags, or we cannot add spacing by the use of padding. So what we're going to do is, because I want to add some extra space in between, I want to add a border. I'm going to go in and make the anchor tag into a block element. Once I add it to a block element, I can add the margins, the padding, and the borders to that. So in my style sheet, I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to type in nav LIA. So I'm going to focus in on the anchor tag. And I'm going to type in display colon block. And that's going to make it into a block element. And I'll go ahead and make it a little bit larger font size. Typically I find that if you do vertical, the font size is going to be a little bit larger on the vertical bar than a horizontal. I'm going to do text hyphen transform. I'm going to make it uppercase to make it easier to read and view. Let's go ahead and make the font hyphen weight bold, just like we did with the horizontal. And let's remove the underline. Okay, so let's save this. Let's just kind of view this real quick. So again, you can see it gets a little bit larger. It's definitely bold. We have to worry about the color and all that, but let's do one more thing. I want to add a little extra spacing. I want to add a little border that's going to appear at the top and bottom of the links, and I want the text to be centered in our area. So I want to add and force spacing, and I can do that by basically going in and adding the padding and border options to my code. So I'm going to add it to the list item A. Now, if I didn't say display block, it would not work. And that always you want to put that at the first so that it knows the block that's going to make it a block element. So I cannot use padding and margins and borders on an inline element. Now let's just do this real quick. I'm going to save this, going to reload, and see how the spacing is automatically added to the top and bottom, so it makes it easier to read. So let's go ahead and add a little extra options here. Let's add a little border, hyphen top, make it solid. We'll do the same for the bottom. And we'll also make it centered. We'll do text hyphen align. Okay, now let's take a look. You can see a border has been added, and you can see how the center makes it easier to look at. Now let's just focus in on the coloring. Just like we did with the horizontal, it's going to be identical. It's going to be identical. So we're going to have the colon link, colon visited, colon hover, colon active to be used here. As I mentioned before, you have to make sure you have it in an exact order. You don't have to have everything listed. Most people do link and visited, but you have to have the exact order. If not, it won't work on every browser. Now when I go and refresh here on my page, you can see it's nice and gray. Now also notice the border color, because I don't go in and specify the border color up here in the anchor tag. It basically takes the color of the font color that you chose for it. Okay, so as you see there, that's why it goes to white or a gray color. Look at the hover effect, see how it goes in. Now again, you can stylize it, you can do other things to this, but it creates that button look, and the only way to do that is to make it into a block element. And then you can also go in and just have some fun with some of the extra styles and apply some extra styles to it to make it stand out.